No, I asked Sandy to put that up here just as prior to us coming in here and when you guys are coming. But just because some people don't know what sled hockey is and they see these guys in their chairs or walking around in prosthetics, but I don't think we really understand what it is or what it looks like or how they sit or how they pick with their sticks, whatever. So I appreciate Sandy setting that up for me and for you guys coming. I'm going to let them do like 98% of the talking, but the rest of the team is over at the high school working with elementary kids and those sort of things. And then had four guys come over here. So for people that don't know me, Corey Gorder, I help coach these guys in hockey here as well. And then I've been doing sled stuff with these guys for about 3 or 4 years, doing camps and stuff, and then got offered the opportunity to be the assistant coach with the national team guys. So with that though, these guys are they're gonna go through their story a little bit, like what brought them to this point. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about, I know someone asked me like how their sled is made, why some are different, why some of those things, some of their sticks, they can go through some of that, and then just offer it up for questions for these guys. And honestly, like as they're talking, if you think of a question and something comes up, ask them. These guys aren't afraid to answer any question that you guys have. Don't feel bad asking a question. I think sometimes we look and go, man, I don't want to ask a question to those guys, but ask whatever it is that we have. So whoever wants to start, just go ahead, guys.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll just start passing these around. This one, be a little gentle with, it's kind of busted up, so just hold it like by this part. This one you can.
And what are you passing around, Jack? You probably want to tell them.
This is the gold medal from this game. This is just one of them. Every guy on the team gets one, and then this is the gold medal from the Sochi game that this guy scored the game winner. Yeah. So.
Introductions?
I'll start. My name is Jack Wallace. I'm 20 years old. I'm from New Jersey. I was a member of this team. I started playing hockey since I was 3 years old. Probably a lot of the similar story being out here. You know, it was just my favorite sport growing up. Played it with my older brothers. And then when I was 10 years old, I got in a boating accident. I ended up getting run over by the same boat I was water skiing from. I got my right leg amputated. Then right after that, I wanted to keep playing hockey, keep going with my favorite sport. So I tried out, tried skating, stand up with a prosthetic. It became pretty obvious, pretty clear that that wasn't going to be viable to keep playing competitively. And everyone's dream, go to the NHL, do that stuff. Every little kid wants to do that. So then I started playing sled hockey, and then I played for a junior team when I was 11 years old. And on that team was a guy by the name of Josh Pauls, who was the captain of this team. Then he went on to Vancouver to win the gold medal, and that kind of set my sights. I got to see the peak of the sport, and that was kind of my goal ever since. Grind and make it to the 2018 Paralympic team, and we did that, and we ended up winning gold. So a lot of fun.
So I'm Josh Sweeney. I'm 31, and I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. I started playing hockey when I was younger, roller hockey, then switched to ice hockey in high school because some of my friends had transferred over to ice hockey and said, come play. Then after I decided to join the military in 2005 and continued to play off and on whenever I'd come home on leave while serving my country. Eventually ended up in Afghanistan, where I stepped on an IED, lost both my legs above the knees, and found out about sled hockey, where I could still continue to play and represent my country in a way that I guess would keep me moving forward in life, and then also having a lot of fun and meeting a lot of great individuals. And so I did that, made the team in 2011, or 2011-12 season, and played up until 2015-16 season, and then I had 2 kids, so I had to take a couple years off. Now I'm back on the team, but like Jack said, I was a member of the 2014 team, where I was fortunate enough to score the game-winning goal, and that's kind of my career highlight so far.
Hey guys, my name is Alan Gooley. I'm 25 years old. I'm from New York, Syracuse, New York area. So in my situation, I lost my right leg due to cancer. I was diagnosed when I was 7 years old. So went through a whole year-long treatment, chemo, and then I had a right right leg amputation. So previously to that, I had never played hockey. I'd always been pretty athletic though, you know, playing soccer, basketball, lacrosse, was a big one for me. So, you know, after I had my amputation, you know, I basically continued to play able-bodied sports, you know, throughout high school, a little bit in college. I played lacrosse. And so around in 2012, I had never heard of sled hockey. I didn't really know about any adaptive sports. I'd never really been a participant. I'd never really been found that. So I went to a physical therapist, and he had known about sled hockey. Basically introduced me to it. I was a little bit weary at first. I was like, nah, you know, I'll just play, you know, regular sports or, you know, able-bodied sports with lacrosse. And I ended up going out, and I fell in love right away. I'd never really been involved too much with hockey, so I was still, you know, had to learn the game. At that point, I was 17 years old. So from there, I basically kind of gradually made my way to where I am now. I was on the development team for a few years. So that was really helpful for me, and then so this is my rookie year here on the national team.
Joshua Hargis. I'm like Colin, one of the newer members to the team this year. I grew up with my legs. I joined the military when I was 20. Became a member of the 75th Ranger Regiment. I did 4 deployments, and on the 4th one, I stepped on a pressure plate IED, and both my legs were immediately amputated. Afterwards, we all went through one of these life-changing events. We weren't born like this, so we all have to kind of redefine ourselves, and that can be really difficult. And who in here is 24, 25? Anyone? And just think about right now having to completely redefine who you are. But at that time, I was talked into sled hockey, and I was able to actually watch this guy when I first started the sport, Josh Sweeney. I was able to watch him score the game-winning goal in Sochi. And I thought it was the most amazing thing ever, and I wanted to get there. So I kind of took that, and that helped me redefine who I was and who I wanted to become. So I had a goal that I could work towards day in and day out, and I never stopped until I got there. It's been 5 years now since I lost both of my legs. I actually had my anniversary last weekend. It was a good day. It's always a good day and a bad day. It was a little worse. I broke my finger, so I was back in the hospital. So, you know, brings back some bittersweet memories. But yeah, this last year, it was an amazing journey. Being able to watch these guys go to Pyeongchang and win the 3rd consecutive gold medal in the Paralympics. So there's a really good legacy to be a part of now. I was on the development team for 3 years, and finally had the honor of being a part of this team now. So it's incredible being able to play with these guys and being part of a 3 gold medal legacy.
Can one of you guys explain the process of like what your stick is, what this, like your bucket is, all those sort of things, why it's different for some guys? Just give a brief thing and then ask questions. You guys are looking like you want me to back it up?
Pull it back to just like a good image of some of the equipment.
Just explain.
Obviously, the biggest difference is how many legs and how long your legs are, right? Okay. But that's the biggest difference as to why the sleds are the way they are. So obviously, there's a minimum length requirement. I can't have a sled so short that it's like right at the end of my legs, because it's just not fair to guys like Jack who have this, long legs. So there's a minimum requirement for how long your sled has to be, and then outside of that, it just turns into So Jack's the end of his sled is right at the end of his leg when he's sitting down, so that he can take the smallest footprint possible on the ice for maneuvering, and but then it's also amazing for Jack to have such a long leg when he's playing defense because he can block out really well for someone like myself. So there's pros and cons to each
I
thing.
just want to, yeah. So, right here, obviously leg out, and that's what he's talking about with Jack. And then I think that, either here or here, right? So if you look at, I think that's Brody. So Brody's just like, he's molded super short up there. So you can see like there's, like that's right, it's straight down from like his torso right underneath, right underneath there. So, but he still has to have that minimum requirement that they're talking about. That makes sense to everyone? If they have one, it's molded to the one side and then it just opens up for the one leg to stick out.
And as far as how they're made, it's just like when they make a prosthetic, basically you just sit down and use like plaster of Paris type stuff and essentially make a copy of you sitting, and then they make a mold out of that, cover that in plastic. I think most of ours are like a hard plastic because it actually flexes versus carbon fiber that is just hard. And then some guys, they cut the top out so that they can sit in it and then put the top down and then buckle it, up some straps and buckle it. Or like mine, it's literally just a hole that I just kind of have to slide into so that that way I don't have to mess with any buckles or anything. So it's just kind of personal preference. Or, you know, like Colin, when he sits down, his is totally open on top. So it's a mold of everything over here, and then he sits down and has buckles. Do you have a top?
I'm going to be getting into
Yeah,
this,
so he'll get a top piece eventually. And mainly that's so that if we're battling or something, and because we do have spikes on the end of our sticks, I can't stab him like in his legs or anywhere else that you might think of. So it's that's a really protective piece when you're playing. Or shooting pucks, you know, if you take the puck anywhere in the leg right there, if you're trying to block a shot or something, it'll really hurt. So.
And then underneath the buckets, how it works is you have two skate blades. It's not just one, it's actually two, and then depending on your personal preference and your skill level, when you start out, usually the blades are this far apart, so it's hard to fall over, but then as you get better, they get closer and closer and closer. I know mine are about 1.25 inches apart. I don't know how far your guys are.
Mine are basically touching.
Basically touching, yeah.
It depends on, I need mine really close for playing offense and being able to just have a really seamless transition to when I'm turning versus if you're on defense and you're on the blue line and you don't want to fall over or trip on the blue line. You want to have them a little wider apart so you can sit there and actually be stable enough.
Yeah, mine are a little wider so they're stable, and I'm harder to knock over, and I can knock over other people much easier.
And with the sticks, guys, I think, question?
Well, I was got a question. He was talking about getting knocked over. I see some guys getting rolled over here. I'm wondering what the rules are as far as checking and
It
everything.
is full contact, full speed. The only difference is you're not allowed to lead a hit with the front of your sled. That's called a T-bone. Otherwise, shoulder to shoulder, you're allowed to light people up.
You just can't clothesline anybody.
Yeah.
Or stick them.
Yeah, you can't stick your elbows up. All the rules are pretty much the same as stand-up hockey as far as checking is concerned. Yeah, and then like Colin was just saying, with the sticks, you have two instead of one. On one end, there's obviously the hockey blade part that you tape up and you control and shoot the puck with. And that's where you hold it, right? You hold them up top, and then when you skate, on the other end, there's two ice picks. They're pretty sharp, and Canadians like to stab. So I got enough scars, stuff like that to go. So then you push kind of almost like you're skiing, and then when you need to stick handle and shoot, you slide your hands down to the other end, and then stick handle and shoot, almost like a tennis racket, right? You hold that.
Any questions you have got?
Yeah.
Bring it up.
Anything.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be about the sled or the sticks anymore, right? Any question that,
How long are the sharp things like that?
About 1.5 inches long.
So they go in, so you guys have pretty big holes in the house?
Yeah, we tear it.
Well, the spikes are only maybe 1/4 inch. So the spikes are only 1/4 inch, but the metal piece, it's like a square piece of metal, and then it has spikes on the end. And, the spikes are only stick off 1/4 inch, but then the metal piece sticks out. So yeah, honestly, we don't even hurt the ice at all compared to what a normal stand-up skater
Like
would
figure
practice.
skaters, when they dig in to do their little twirlies and stuff, they dig in probably about 1 inch or so, like really deep. Ours get down 1/4 to 1/2 inch. yeah, be a little different for the ice. So you don't have to like go out and pack them and stuff like you do for figure skaters.
Could have just brought one maybe.
Yeah.
Would have been an intent.
Yeah,
Tell
we said that.
to
Tell us to bring anything, so we can bring equipment. What other questions?
So like you said, your goal is to make it on this team, and now you're here, so you have more goals that you've redefined now?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm 20 years old. I'm currently a junior. I'm a biomedical engineering student at a college in New Jersey. Actually, it's called the College of New Jersey. So my goal is obviously to graduate and find a job in that. But as far as hockey is concerned, my next goal is, after winning a gold medal at the Paralympics, the next goal is obviously to keep winning and to stay a member of this team, but to develop my own skill set to become one of the most dominant players in the world. That's my goal at this point.
I'd say that's why like our team is a little bit different too, because I think for each and every one of us, we still have, other things in our life, rather than like if you compare us to an NHL player, who might just be, that's really their job. So I mean, like whether it be, in school, raising a family, I think a lot of us have that kind of and other types of things that we have to balance as well. So.
That was my question. What is, besides you're going to college right now, how about the other three guys?
Yeah. I went to college for 3 years for my undergraduate at a SUNY school in New York, and then from there I went and got my master's. So I'm currently a social worker. I work at a VA facility in New York.
I'm just a stay-at-home dad. It's a lot more work than I think it sounds like if you have kids,
I was in school for mechanical engineering. I have married, 2 kids, and with all of that, the home life, hockey, and school, I had to really kind of prioritize things and figure out what I really wanted to do. And for me, hockey was, it's a big part of me now. It's kind of who I am, how I define myself. So I wanted to get to this point. I wanted to make this team. I wanted to achieve that goal. And so I said, hell of school. And so that's when I really started training seriously. No, so I stopped going to school so that I could train seriously in hockey, and I really wanted to achieve this goal. And now that I'm here, I want to keep training. I want to be one of those integral players on the team. I want to be able to hold my spot there. And we, Sweeney and myself, we're kind of in a unique position being medically retired military. We're heavily supported by the VA system. So guys like Colin, we have a lot of support there, so it kind of allows us to kind of venture out and achieve these goals that we have. It really helps us to kind of redefine who we are and get out there and try new things later in life that otherwise we wouldn't have the opportunity to do.
One of the things that I'm going to add to this, so if we look back to like just sports in general, like generally speaking, athletes get paid to do things, right? And these guys didn't get paid when they were playing. And as far as being on national teams, if we were to back that up and go all the way back to when sled hockey started or any Paralympic athlete, they didn't get, these guys don't get paid. So if they're not military and supported through that way, these guys have to, like these guys go to work, like you're in school, that's just like work, right? But we do, they're either at school or at work, and then when we go for weekends, it's like Thursday, you fly, like these guys fly in on a Thursday, we practice Thursday night, usually twice Friday, twice Saturday, and then we fly home Sunday. So because these guys either have families or have a life outside of that, so they can hopefully have dinner with their family and then they go back to work or school on Monday. The nice part that's really come out in the last 2 years, that when they make a national team, these guys do get a contract now. And I think it's actually a really good thing as far as where we're at as a society, that we're starting a little bit more of, I don't know if I want to call it equality 100%, but I would call it, they get a contract now to be a player. So with 17 players, there's 17 contracts that these guys get to sit down with the general manager of the team and work out. They negotiate what they're doing, what they get paid, those sort of things. So, so I think that helps. When you start talking, when Coach Shaving asked them, what do they do other than that? Some of that gets to help some of these guys train a little bit more. Because before, it's like you go to work and then all of a sudden now I got to find money to pay for. I'm gonna pay Colin to train me or to work on those sort of things. So that's one of the changes that first was it last year?
Yeah.
So last season was the first year they get a contract, and hopefully that eases some of that burden of spreading themselves too thin, right? Like when we're in school, we're in school, we're an athlete, so coaches expect lots out of you guys, and then go work out on your own after the practice and do those things. Plus, you're supposed to be in classes and all those things. So it helps to balance some of that for these guys, just to add as far as what we do other than that. So,
Hey, Corey,
yeah.
based on that they got a contract that you started like last year, I understand.
Yeah.
How are we funding the team through national funds at all, or is this all by donations, or
It's
how
all-
do we support these guys?
That's a really good question. I mean, do you guys?
Yeah, it's all, I'm pretty sure it's all through the USA Hockey
Yeah.
Foundation and
Okay.
donations, and also through the USOC, and they're all privately funded, privately donated, stuff like that.
Okay.
We don't, a lot of other countries in the world do have government-paid programs for their athletes. USA is not one of them.
So they're part of USA Hockey. So when these guys talk about their goal of making the team, yeah, the goal is to make the team, but realistically, the goal is to make the team in 2022. Like, and I don't mean to like shortchange these guys this year, but the reality is like, it's great to be on the team this year, but I think all those goals would work towards, hey, I want to make it next year and the following year, and then I want to be over in China playing for the next gold medal. And so that's the reality. So we're part of USA Hockey until it gets right before the Olympics. And then now we no longer have hockey listed under here. That hockey goes away, and then these guys are a part of, and I don't want to call you like, you guys are owned by them, but it's essentially what it is. They have the rights, the USOC, the Olympic Committee, has the rights to basically everything at that point. We lose USA Hockey and it goes to the Olympic Committee. So, Coach Shea?
Yeah, I kind of hate to dominate here, but as a coach, I've had a lot of athletes that I don't know, kind of feel sorry for themselves because of the situation, you know, maybe they're not getting enough playing time or whatever the case would be. Not this year's team, of course, they're all.
Well covered.
And I'm curious, I would really be interested in hearing your perspective. You guys really seem to be very comfortable with yourself, very well adjusted, very confident. And I know it had to be tough. And I think for all of you, but especially for the two guys that were older that were injured in the military, I'm wondering if somebody could speak to the mental process of how you guys have got to where you are, the struggle that after that initial injury, if somebody's comfortable talking about that.
I can say. All right. So, like I was saying before, getting injured later in life, it's really difficult because everything. Like I was once sitting in college classes, just like you guys are right now. It really wasn't for me at the time, so I went and joined the military, and everything that I did was I was building this life. I was creating this life for myself. And I got to this point where I was in a unit that was part of the special operations community. It takes a lot to get there. It's really physically and mentally demanding. They put you through everything you can think of just to break you down and just to see what you're made of. So I had gone for 25 years really putting everything that I had into building this life for myself, and everything was gone in an instant. You know, we were out working one night, and I stepped on essentially a landmine, and my legs were gone. So I could no longer continue the life that I was living, but mentally it's really hard to accept things like that. It's really hard for you to just completely forget everything that you've done, everything that you are, and kind of look towards the future and be optimistic about what else is out there. So for a really long time, my wife and I, we were struggling, just trying to get back to a new norm. We had a really hard time kind of getting back to a healthy relationship between us. And me just immensely being able to, I guess, be optimistic about the day, not only about, you know, next month, next year, just about the day. So that's when I had to make the really difficult decision to go and talk to a counselor. Us guys, we're really stubborn. We don't like to admit that we can't do things. So going to talk to a counselor, they were able to kind of put things into perspective for me. And he told me that, you know, the life that I had lived before, it was gone. And you're never going to get you're not going to be able to continue living that life, but now you have to take everything that you have, everything that you still have, and redefine who you are. You know, start working towards who you want to become 5-10 years down the road. So for me, that was a huge weight off my chest. I was able to kind of get past everything that I was trying to hold on to and start looking towards the future. From that moment on, it made it so much easier for me to open up about things, to try new things, to kind of look past all of those mental barriers and kind of accept that everything happened. It didn't end my life. It doesn't have to define my life. And I am, it's from a poem, Invictus. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So only I get to define who I am.
Yeah, and then as far as, you know, that's individually, I think he nailed it. And then as far as team sports, being a part of a team, well, shoot, Vargas has been awesome because he broke his finger, right? I break a stick. He's like, hey, you want me to go fix that for you? And I'm really stubborn when it comes to my own stuff. Like, I want to do everything. But, you know, that's just being part of a team. Sometimes you'll say, hey, I don't have time to do that right now, or I need that time to prepare, do what I need to do. And he's ready to go, and he's ready to do it. So I was like, okay, sure. And then he's still finding ways to help other guys out, even though he can't play, even though he wants to play. And he's watching guys and when they're skating. And that's just part of being a team is A, you can't always do everything, and you're not going to be able to. And then B, if you can, find something you can do that's going to help. And you know, I think the biggest part that's a huge piece of our team right now is that we don't really have any kind of walls up. Like, we're totally open with each other as far as like, hey, I need help, or you know, this is what I'm struggling with. And really, when you're a team, that's being vulnerable is huge because it allows you to move forward. You know, if I'm always like, no, like I'm the greatest, I don't need any help in anything, you know, I'm never going to progress because I'm going to be stuck in my own bubble. And if I can, you know, say to Colin, like, hey, help me out on, you know, using you know, guard me more on the right, so I'm forced to use my left hand more, and working on stuff like that will really make you a better player, even though it's hard to swallow that sometimes, that you need that help. It's crucial to your own development. So I'd say that's the biggest thing, and then just being there for your teammates no matter what, whether it's to tell them that their head's getting too big, or to, you know, tell them that, you know, or to go ask them what's wrong. You know, it's all part of it. It's more than just what happens on the field or in the court.
How often do you guys practice? How many hours a week before that?
Since we're from all over the country, I think we have 8 or 9 different states represented throughout the whole team. It's a lot on an individual basis. Like Coach said, when we're together, that's the schedule. We fly in Thursday, skate. We'll have 5 skates, and then we fly home Sunday. But on our own, it's really dependent on when you can get ice time, all that stuff. Me, personally, I'm training I know I'm training 12 to 13 times a week, depending on my class schedule and when I get to skate and all that kind of stuff. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like Jack said, it really depends on each of us individually, because for the majority of the season too, like we'll have, upcoming in, December, January, February, we're not really going to be meeting for, a couple months. So a lot of that, I think we're going to be having some conversations too with our coaches, what we're going to be, individually, what we should be working on, throughout that time. And then, I think we all try and get on the ice as much as we can. Probably getting on 2 to 3 a week, and then, lifting, pretty much, 6 days a week. So, kind of getting whatever you can get, I think, a lot of instances.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for me, it's probably about like 4 days in the gym, 4 days a week in the gym, and then about 5-6 days on the ice. So about like six hours in the gym, about maybe like nine hours on the ice.
Math's not our strong suit.
He said it also.
I don't work out, I don't go to school. I kind of treat this as my job essentially, because I'm like monetarily compensated through the VA, so I'm able to kind of treat this as a full-time job, and that's kind of what it took for me in order to get to this spot now, is to really get on the ice more and train more and really hone in on what I wanted to accomplish. Yep.
How'd you break your finger?
This little guy. So last weekend was our first training camp. We were in Vegas, and this happened. It was like the second skate. So day 2. It was about 5 minutes before the end of practice. We were doing like 3-on-3 drill. My hand, we're skating. We're really low to the ice. So, and we have these metal frames. The frames don't give. My finger does. It got caught in between 2 sleds, and it smashed. It's the tip of it's in about 3 different pieces right now. So, just taking a few weeks off. And like Sweeney said, yes, I can skate, but I am still part of the team. I want to be a part of the team as much as I can. So, back to Coach back there, it sucks really bad not being able to skate, having to sit on a bench and watch the guys skate, but there are other things that I can do. I want to be able to help out and be as much of a part of the team as I can, even though I'm injured. So doing film, helping guys with equipment, and being a new guy on the team, a big part of team sports is just that building a relationship with the team. So because I'm new, being able to just hang out with the guys and get to know them a little bit more, it helps out a lot. I'm kind of not one of the most liked players in the sport. I get I get a little chippy on the ice sometimes, so like not everybody likes me on the team, so I have a lot of making up to do with some of the guys. So it's being around, it definitely helps out.
Yep.
When you guys are saying you're skating and training in ice time, when you're not with the team, are you practicing by yourself or with a trainer, or are you practicing with a able-bodied, like a normal team? Or old man's league or something like that? You're not old man, but you know what I mean.
It's a good mix. During the summers, I coach at I'll coach kids teams or at a hockey summer camp, so I'll be skating with able bodies. But then during the season, I'm usually skating with one of my teammates, Declan. He goes to Princeton, which is about 8 miles away from my school, so I skate with him every once in a while. Or if we can't do it, we'll skate on our own. Yeah, so it's a mix between everybody.
And we're all part of a club team too. So like in our area, there's different like NHL teams. Like I played for the Buffalo Sabres. There's like the Colorado Avalanche, New Jersey Devils. There's that one. So there's like these at the club level too. We're all playing. We have different league tournaments and different things like that, kind of sporadically throughout the year. So sometimes we're able to do that as well.
So what's it What's the process to make the team? Like, how many people try out and how many are selected? What's that all like?
Just in July, every July, there's a tryout where basically sign up, fly to Buffalo, New York, where it's been for the last couple of years, 4 years, and basically play 4 games, one in the morning, one in the evening, for 2 days, and they will select out of that. And the final game is normally where they will divvy you up. You know, this game you're probably not going to make the national team. You're probably more than likely looking at the development team and then national team guys and then the coaches.
So there were 60 players roughly that came and tried out this year for the team, and then so from those 60, then it's all the staff who sit down and have that discussion afterwards and have these guys ranked. We can carry 17 players, so the national team has 17 players. When these guys play, 15 dress. Like that's the rule that goes in there. So the 2 guys who, I mean, you talk about having to overcome some things when we have accidents and stuff like that, but same concept happens every time there's a game day. Like we have the top 17 players in the United States, and 2 of them have to sit out because they're not good enough, right? Like, isn't that how we would think if we were the player? The reality is they might not need to be that part that's needed that day, right? Like their job is to do something else in that moment. Doesn't mean that they're not good, doesn't mean any of those other things, but so 17 players come out of 60, and then another either 17 or 18. This year the development team has 18 because they picked up a 3rd goaltender. So they have 18. So out of those 60, some go home and they leave there, and those are kids from, I think we had a 13-year-old actually out there this year who just wanted to see how he compared to someone else. And so up to Rico's probably the oldest.
Is it Ralph?
No,
Rico's 30. How old is he?
37.
Okay,
He
so
won't tell you that part. He's 37.
yeah, I'm saying he's 38, but just for fun, right? So we have Rico who's 37, and he's on the national team as well. But so when you think of the like 60 players come out there now, think of even some of you guys or gals who are sitting here at 18, 19, and then you're going against some of these guys who are built pretty well. But put a 13-year-old kid out there against a 38-year-old man, like it's a little bit different, but that's how good some people can be and how good they are. So 17 come out of it and have the contracts on the national team. The next 17 or 18 are on the development team, and they train as well, just like we do, but they don't have contracts. So those guys are just trying to make it here. So that's part of the process, how it works.
Will those people on the second level still come practice with you guys?
They don't this year. In the past, we'll have camps together so we can mix everybody up and have some scrimmages or have some more competitive practices, because reality is we only have 15 skaters on the ice, and that's hard to do some battling stuff. So, but not this year. We're on our own.
Something pretty amazing happened this last year. The women's sled team, so they've been trying to get their program going for a while now, and this last year they actually fall under the USA Hockey umbrella now. So they're now part of the USA Hockey organization, and their first camp of the year, it was actually the men's development team and the women's development team. They had a camp together. So,
How many times a year do you guys meet?
This year, I think it's what, 7? Yeah, 7 times. It usually falls right around that number. We usually have 2 tournaments every year and then a couple training camps.
And the selection of the team, then you team members, do you have to requalify? You get all these guys together in July, so
Yeah.
I mean, you might not make it this next year because somebody else sliced you off.
Yeah, every contract is 1 year. Every year you have to try out. Like all the guys that were on this team had to come back that next July and try out for the team and prove that they were still at the top.
So out of the 17 players on that, there's 12 that are on that team now. So if we figure that out, and I just heard I'll show math, right? We have 5 players that aren't back, right? Okay, so the reality is, right here, we actually have 3 of 4 right here, right? Like 3 of these guys bump 3 other guys. So, and that's how it is. Like you come in at like your square one right away every July. So
But in essence, Corey, if they get bumped this year, they could come back and try for the next
Right.
one, and they
Yes.
could bump somebody to get back on.
So like Sweeney
Oh,
played, right, he played, and then he made the decision to be done because of family and all those other things, was having children, and then he decided to come back, and then in July, he comes back, and then paid everybody lots of money to put him back on the team.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Okay, so hockey's expensive and ice time's expensive, so do you guys get help with those expenses or for travel and things like that? How is that paid for?
That's what a lot of the contractors help, kind of help us out with, is all those training stipends. If you do need to buy ice, if you need to buy equipment, USA Hockey will cover that stuff for us. They're very supportive of this team and the development team that way.
Like when we come in, like they don't pay for anything, like when they're, I mean, they don't pay.
It was pretty luxurious.
They all paid their way up here today. No, I'm kidding. No, I mean, everything is, flights are made, like, they know who they have to contact to get their flights arranged, and then it's just, like, they don't pay for anything up front. Like, everything is covered. We all show up. They hand us your per diem on the first day, and here's your room key, and this is when the bus leaves. And so they don't have any cost unless they were in Vegas and gambled. That was, right?
And
So-
equipment and stuff like that too?
Yeah, same, that's paid for too.
Tough question. For the two that are in the military, what was your motivation for joining? Both of you were Army, is that correct?
I was in the Marines.
Marine?
Mine was more out of, I guess, adventure, and I always loved weapons, like growing up. Not like love in a sick kind of way, but just like I enjoyed shooting. It sounded weird. I always enjoyed shooting, and so, and then obviously serving my country is another big one. A lot of family, a lot of my family was in the military, so I was just kind of seeing what things to do.
Similarly, I grew up shooting, hunting, always, I don't know, I always felt kind of out of place, like I wasn't doing anything worthwhile, and going to school, it wasn't for me at the time. I had always wanted to join the military, and it was something that I wanted to do. So I ended up joining. Somebody showed me a video of like Rangers doing stupid stuff for no reason, so I wanted to do that. And I don't know, it's always in the back of my mind, watching video or live footage from 9/11. I was in 7th grade. I still remember everything. I mean, walking into it was my music class. I played the trumpet in high school, and I walked in and everything was just completely silent. Like, the entire school was, our teacher turned the TV on, and we all just sat there in silence and just watched. So, that was always a motivating factor, and getting into the Ranger Regiment, it was pretty cool. I had no clue what I was getting into, but I was able to be a part of the same company, same group of guys that were in Mogadishu, Somalia, so the Black Hawk Down. That was 3rd Battalion, or Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. And our first sergeant at the time was actually a private during all of that. So it was just an amazing experience being a part of just a legacy like that.
So do you guys go to the VA much and talk to guys, other Yankee 2 guys or anything like that that do the same thing? Do you have to do that much?
Just kind of when they want us to.
Most of the stuff that we do with the VA is just regular treatment that we go in for. Most of the guys that are military, that are amputees, well, really the only guys that I know are other guys that play sled hockey. All of the amputees that I know, it's all from sled hockey. So, But getting to go to the VA, it's really nice because we get to meet and talk with the older generation. So the guys that kind of paved the way for us. We wouldn't have what we have now as far as being taken care of after injury if it weren't for our previous generation that didn't want anyone after them to have to go through the same degradation that they had to go through whenever they were coming back from conflicts overseas. So it's really a huge thank you to the guys before us that makes everything for us now so easy.
Yep.
I know you guys have to go quickly here, but if just in a couple sentences, I'm really interested in the mental side of this issue of how you guys have all adapted and really done so well. And if maybe each of you in just a couple sentences could explain to all of our athletes in here and probably the rest of us what being part of a member of this team has meant to you guys as far as your life, how it's, the positive direction has gone.
I think something that I've thought a lot about is, I think everyone even in this room, can be faced with different types of adversity, and the word that comes to my mind is perseverance. And Jack and I were talking about it earlier today, and in terms of perseverance, how you can somehow find it within yourself to find some type of hope and keep moving forward. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of, maybe internally it could be different for everybody, but I mean, for myself, I've been able to just, really think about that, and in terms of, when times are tough, and I think really having a solid support system is important, and that can really play a big factor in, how well we have adapted. I think that really has been a big factor for a lot of us.
Outside of that, just the normal get through life kind of stuff, I've found the biggest thing that helps me in life, especially in sports, is not comparing myself to my teammates and where I'm at developmentally in my game, not comparing it to someone like Declan Farmer who scored both those goals, because I would feel so down on myself every time I was on the ice with the way that he plays compared to how I play. So I found the biggest thing is just, and even in life, I don't compare myself to other people my age, because we're all at different places in life and we're all going through different things. And when you're able to let go of someone else being better than you, it helps you to see why they're better than you and how you can become, or how you can pick up some of those things and improve yourself, because otherwise you just kind of turn into a grouch.
I'm not going to pull out poetry like this guy, but I do have a quote that I heard when I first got hurt, and it kind of stuck with me my whole life. Life is not determined by what happens to us, but by how you react to what happens. And I think that we all kind of have this similar attitude, like perseverance. You just always got to get through whatever happens. And then the other thing is, my other ideology is what's next. When I got hurt, it was, okay, what's next, what's next, what's next? And you mentioned before, ice time. My first year on the development team, I think I had a total of 10 shifts the entire season, and we played close to 10 games, and that's horrible. So my decision was, what's next? And the next year, I decided there's going to be no way that I get that little playing time. And I grinded that whole summer, and coming back the next year, things changed a lot. So that's kind of always been my attitude.
For me, biggest thing that comes to mind is being dedicated. It takes a lot of work. It's really hard. It takes a long time to achieve your goals. But as soon as you give up on your goals, that's when your dreams have died. That's when you no longer have a chance to achieve those goals. And I had to deal with that last year, going through tryouts and not making the Paralympic team, not being able to go to Pyeongchang and playing these games. It was really hard watching all these guys over there playing in the games and winning a gold medal. But for me, that was my biggest motivating factor, and that's what allowed me to get to this point now. It really drove me to keep playing, to keep working as hard as I could, because I never wanted to feel that disappointment, that letdown again. I never wanted to sit at home while I watch these guys play in a gold medal match. So that drove me to work twice as hard as I did the year before and make this team and be able to stand where I am now.
You know, on the news, they, as you were here, they're always against VA or talking about some of the VA hospitals and how bad they are. I guess my question directed, especially to the veterans, what is your overall on the VA? Did you get treated good enough from them, in your opinion, or is there some issues yet that?
Here we go.
No, we don't want to get into a political discussion,
No.
here, but the VA it's treated us pretty well.
Good.
It's free treatment for us. You
Yep.
have to understand that you have to be patient, and you're not the only one being treated by the VA. So as long as you know that you can't go in and get what you want that same day, it's not that bad.
And on the
Looking at the flip side, I wouldn't have legs to walk on. I'd be paying close to or over $100,000 for these legs that I'm walking on right now, and the VA gives them. So they're great, taken care of.
How many times did each of you try out before you actually made the team?
Two times, and I made it both times. Because I've had to come back.
I think I went to tryouts 4 times, and I made the development team 3 times out of that, and then the national team this year.
Yeah, I did my first tryout, I made the development team, and then I was on the development team for 3 years, and then I tried out again for the national team.
I went to tryouts 4 times, got picked up for the D team 3 times, and then my 4th time made the national team.
Perfect. All right, I gotta get these guys over there, but hey, thanks for listening. And,